mentioned much in the press. No. What? What? No. I can't think of it. But anyway, there are definitely powerful corporate interests behind what's going on in Somalia, just like there were behind Rwanda. Now, is Shell, for example, who backed Kagame, are they also involved in Somalia? It's hard to imagine they're not, but I can't answer it on that level.
And if you take a bird's eye view and don't restrict yourself to Africa, just a few short miles over the water there, you've got Yemen, so that connects right directly into the oil fields of the Middle East. Well,
the U.S. military relations between Djibouti and Ethiopia are the big power structures up in the Horn. Djibouti in particular. Djibouti is like Rwanda, but not nearly as militarized and no bloodshed compared to Rwanda. Nothing. Just really quiet little Islamic country controlled by the United States where they're launching these UAVs. And they fly across the straits, across the water to Yemen, where there's another insurgency going on that's backed, covert operations with the United States, as well as some things going on in Saudi Arabia, as well as Israel and the Palestinians. I mean, there's a relationship between the war in Sudan and the Palestinians, which we're never told. And it's not just that Israel has bombed some convoys in the north of Sudan. It's much more complicated. But these pieces are never given to us. And I'm not an expert on Somalia, but I would really like to go there if you would write me a check.
Keith, what we've in listening to some of the stuff that you presented today, it seems almost like a tape that's like stuck and it keeps repeating itself.
Am I sounding like that?
No, not you, of course. The information. It's so voluminous, and the atrocities have been continuous. And I think everybody knows that Africa is the most and the richest continent in terms of resources. Now, you talked about all that side of Africa, the whole west coast of Africa, from Nigeria, Ghana, and Cameroon. All these countries are packed with oil as well. So that goes without saying. So my question to you is, two questions, is, first of all, what brings you there? I mean, your particular trek. And the other thing is, how do we not only become more informed, because I think we've become certainly disconnected in certainly African issues, certainly because of its overwhelming atrocities that just blows your mind. It's just, how do you deal with those numbers? You just can't. And so therefore, how do we, over here, what do you think our role ought to be?
I first got involved as because I was playing the Tarzan role. I was an adventurer. I wanted to go to Africa, see the animals. I didn't give a damn about the people. I wanted to see some tribes, everything National Geographic had showed me. By the way, National Geographic is one of our premier institutions of propaganda about Africa. Covering up the truth all over the place, covering up what's really happening, covering up the mining, even though it does talk about it in some places. All you got to do is show those pretty pictures of the tribes, which are wonderful, but at the same time, the people of the Sahara up in Agadez, Niger, where the uranium goes to France. France's entire nuclear security policy revolves around uranium out of Agadez a year. We see little of that. We see the Tuareg on horses. Anyway, I went there as kind of a Tarzan thing, and then started to wake up. I started to wake up actually when I was bicycling across India. Then I flew to Africa and started waking up a little bit more. And then over the course of the 1990 to 1995 time frame, I really woke up. So by 1995, I was just a raging lunatic. I was just so furious with all the lies that I'd been told. You couldn't hardly talk to me. And then I started to see more and more. And then on November 10th, 1995, they executed Ken Saro-Wiwa. And my life took a change for the better, because I woke up even more and I started to really study what happened to Ken Saro-Wiwa and how this man could be dead when I had never heard his name, and how powerful a speaker and leader he was for the Ogoni people in Nigeria. And if you saw the oil company presence in Nigeria, it's huge. Anyway, that was a motivating factor. And then in 1991, when I went to Zaire, I got really sick on my bicycle in the middle of the forest. And his family, the poorest people in the world, took care of me. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get on my bike. I couldn't ride for days. And I got an infection behind my ear, and they just took care of me. They gave me their entire hearts, for the next week or two, until finally I could get back on my bicycle and ride off and wave goodbye to them forever. And then I found out the entire family, from the babies to the grandfather, were butchered in 1997. which woke me up a little bit more. But then when all these lies came out about Africa, about Congo, and about how the Hutus committed this, I just started to see through the truth and realize there was a bigger story, and the bigger lie it is, the more furious it makes me. So I just got really furious about it, and that's how I got involved and just started, doing more and more. Your other question was, what can you do? The Friends of the Congo is a good organization. Friends of the Congo is working on helping. Friends of the Congo is an honest organization. There's a guy in New York, Kambale Musavale. There's also a Professor Yalengi. He's not here, is he? There he is. He's a good guy. And these are the real people that need to be speaking up here, actually, as well as the fellow who survived the genocide there in the tie and the white shirt. And I should give a few minutes to him. But the point I wanted to make was there are organizations that have co-opted the movement and tried to co-opt the movement, and just I'm going to find one of the slides about these organizations, but the Enough Project, Raise Hope for Congo, Eve Ensler's campaign, the Run for Congo movement, they're all on some level speaking about the Congo, but on another level they're whitewashing the story because none of them talk about the mining operations. None of them name the corporations or the individuals that should be named, the people that should be on trial or at least being deposed for their involvement in the killing at this very moment, not 10 years ago. But the story is still going on. When I talk to student groups, I realize they're so young, they don't even realize why 1994 is so pivotal to understand. It's because it's still going on. And the same thing with Museveni. It's still going on. He's been in power for 27 years, but you got to understand how he came to power and what it's all about and why it relates to today. And the point is, you'll see the Enough Project and you'll see Eve Ensler in the media all over the place, New York Times. But you don't see Friends of the Congo very often. It's because they have a true agenda to help the Congo, and they speak about the corporations. There are also movements on the ground in the Congo to resist. So, for example, the Blattner Logging Company, there are villages that are fighting against the logging company by erecting barricades on a daily basis, just like the Penon people in Malaysia, which we don't ever hear about. They're fighting against the logging companies today, but it's not in the New York Times, and it never will be. Neither will the mention of Elwin Blattner and David Blattner and how they come to New Jersey, or they fly to Belgium, or they have bar mitzvahs for their kids in Congo, where they bring in, or Dan Gertler from Israel, who had his kosher meal shipped in an airplane across Congo, which cost $20,000 every time they did it, and he had his lunch brought in every day from Kinshasa for $20,000, Dan Gertler is one of the richest people on the planet, and he is behind the atrocities in Central Africa at this moment, and he's working out of Israel and connections to New York. Maurice Templespan could be protested. He lives here in New York somewhere as well. But the bottom line is there are people doing the real work that need to be supported. Gertler. Read Gertler's the Bling Blang Torah Gang, a story that I wrote about Gertler. Gertler's Bling Bang Torah Gang, and of course, bling. Leonardo DiCaprio said over here it's over here it's bling bling, and over there it's bling bang or whatever. Over here it's bling blang, and over there it's bling bling. About diamonds in the movie about diamonds, yeah. And I found this information about Dan Gertler and uncovered this story. And when I published the story, it really shook up the government in Congo. So the lawyers for Dan Gertler actually came after me about a year and a half ago. Anyway, the bottom line is there are people doing the real work and there are people doing the front work. And I live under the poverty line. And we're trying to make a movie about this which tells this true story. And, we could use some support for that. And I would like some support to be able to have a computer that works fast enough that I don't have to sit there waiting for the stupid thing to do something so that I can actually write a story. I mean, it sounds funny, but I don't even have a fucking decent computer to work with. Because I just spend so much, I'm very reactionary. When I see some lies in the media, I have to write a story and expose what's going on. And so that's part of the reason I haven't produced a book, but partly I just don't have the resources. So these airplanes ship the raw materials out. It's not, and we could protest this company in Ohio. We could protest this company in Ohio. And we know who the corporations are. We've named them over and over and over. And along comes somebody suddenly like from the Enough Project, like John Prendergast, who was going to be on GQ magazine for all his wonderful work helping stop genocide, et cetera, and says, well, we don't know who's actually committing the atrocities in the Congo. They just rewrite the story every day. It's like pretending that we don't exist, that people like me don't exist. People like Yalengi, who wrote a book about genocide in the Congo, don't exist. And Yalengi can tell you the story. He's a professor in New York I think, and how he stood up at a Human Rights Watch meeting and said, or he stood up somewhere and said, there's genocide going on in the Congo, and the Human Rights Watch expert stood up and said, you need to be careful how you use the word genocide. Isn't that correct? You don't know what you're talking about, Yulenge. You may be from the Congo. Now that's white supremacy. So I hope the Brecht Forum will get Yulenge to come and speak. And maybe, yeah. So if somebody wants to ask a question, I'd be happy to take a question. But I also would be happy to turn the floor over for a couple minutes. Oh, go ahead. I'll try not to speak so long about any particular question.
My name is Agnes, but I will be more comfortable in French. I will speak in French, and you can translate. Merci beaucoup, Kent, parce que ça fait des années que vous luttez pour ce pays-là.
Thank you so very much, my friend, because for many years you've been fighting for the country.
Le problème, moi, je suis du Congo.
I'm from Congo.
Et ma peine, c'est de voir, ma question, ma préoccupation, est-ce que réellement il y a quelqu'un qui veut mettre fin au génocide des Congolais, au viol des femmes congolaises et des enfants congolais? Est-ce que réellement il y a quelqu'un qui veut mettre fin à cette histoire-là?
My preoccupation is there anybody who really want to put an end to the genocide in the Congo, to the women being violated, being raped, and also to the children? Is there really anybody who wants to